Savannah Behrmann USA Today published 6:42 p.m. EDT August 27, 2019 Washington, Senator Bernie Sanders, of Vermont, a top-tier candidate in the 2020 Democratic primary field, used an op-ed published Monday in the Columbia Journalism Review to release his plan to take concrete action against today's assaults on journalism by Wall Street, billionaire businessmen, Silicon Valley, and Donald Trump, calling the situation a crisis. Sanders writes that the convergence of several trends has resulted in the decimation of journalism as communities have lost local newspapers and newsrooms have lost employees. Newsroom employment across the country has declined by a quarter since 2008, Sanders writes, citing government data analyzed by the Pew Research Center. At precisely the moment when we need more reporters covering the healthcare crisis, the climate emergency, and economic inequality, we have television pundits paid tens of millions of dollars to pontificate about frivolous political gossip, as local news outlets are eviscerated, Sanders writes. News outlets have been looking for ways to make money as traditional advertising dries up and jobs cuts have been necessary. Sanders acknowledges that much of that revenue potentially still exists in digital advertising, but that money largely goes to Facebook and Google, who control 60% of the entire digital advertising market. Sanders also faults mergers between outlets and conglomerates, and greed from places like Wall Street. For example, he mentions the proposed acquisition of Gannett by Gatehouse Media. Gannett owns USA Today and more than 100 other daily publications and digital marketing services. If he is elected president in 2020, Sanders said his administration will start requiring major media corporations to disclose whether or not their corporate transactions and merger proposals will involve significant journalism layoffs. The senator also said he would appoint an attorney general who will enforce antitrust laws against tech giants like Facebook and Google, to prevent them from using their enormous market power to cannibalize, bilk, and defund news organizations. Their monopoly power has particularly harmed small, independent news outlets that do not have the corporate infrastructure to fight back, Sanders added. On top of also appointing new, progressive leadership at the FCC, Sanders writes that he will appoint Federal Trade Commission officials who will, along with his Attorney General, enforce antitrust laws against companies like Facebook and Google. Additionally, Sanders would work to pass his Workplace Democracy Plan, which boosts media workers' efforts to form unions. Sanders' plan comes at a time when violence and mistrust against the media is on the rise. According to the press freedom group Reporters Without Borders, the U.S. was among the top 5 deadliest countries for journalists in 2018. Additionally, the U.S. Press Freedom Tracker has recorded 27 attacks against journalists so far this year. In the op-ed, Sanders also takes on President Donald Trump's dislike of the media, which he frequently calls fake news. We also know that Donald Trump is making things far worse. He is a pathological liar who has spent his presidency trying to demonize journalists when they dare to debunk his lies, Sanders pens. Worse, he has called the media the enemy of the people in a deliberate attempt to destroy the very idea of a free press. Trump's authoritarian bullying of the media is totally unacceptable and it must be denounced and rejected. But let us be clear, that alone will not solve the journalism crisis. Moreover, a further expansion of oligarchic business models in the media industry could make matters worse, he continues. This plan comes despite Sanders recently growing frustrated himself with the media, included suggesting that Jeff Bezos, who owns both Amazon and The Washington Post, had influenced the Post's coverage of his campaign. At a town hall, Sanders suggested that some critical coverage was linked to his own criticism of Amazon, noting that Amazon paid little corporate tax last year. More, Washington Post editor says, Bernie Sanders favoring conspiracy theory by linking coverage to Amazon. Jeff Bezos. Sanders is not the only 2020 Democratic presidential hopeful to announce a plan intended to help journalism. Entrepreneur Andrew Yang has proposed a local journalism fund, writing that the public should recognize that local journalism has a vital public function. In his op-ed, Sanders writes, "Our Constitution's First Amendment explicitly protects the free press because the founders understood how important journalism is to a democracy. More than 2 centuries after the Constitution was signed, we cannot sit by and allow corporations, billionaires, and demagogues to destroy the Fourth Estate, nor can we allow them to replace serious reporting with infotainment and propaganda. Let's block ads. Why?